And let's stop the intro before it repeats ad nauseum over and over. What's up, everybody? It's Disassembled. It's your boys. It's the official podcast of the Big Glasgow comic page. I'm your
one of the boys,
somewhat educated host, Ian. Dan is here.
Dan is here. Here is Dan, one of the boys.
And also here, hanging with the boys. Today,
I hate people who say that, man.
Hanging with the boys. Today is July 4th, 2021, which for most of you in Europe means nothing. But for me, it means that people are going to obnoxiously shoot off fireworks for hours tonight. I love it. I'm really looking forward to not sleeping.
Happy we have Thunder and Lightning. We get it here.
Happy Modern the Natives Day, Ian.
Happy
it's 4th of July.
Happy we escaped from under the control of the English so that we can then murder the Native Peoples Day.
Yeah.
Hey Ian. July the 4th be with you. That's our topic of today.
We're shutting this shit down. We're done.
Yeah,
done. This podcast is over. Yeah. That's relevant, though, because this week we're going to talk about the Star Wars prequels and the first of what I assume is going to be an ongoing series of ranking Star Wars movies. But we're not insane people, so we're not going to do them all at once.
Really have. So unsure.
This week we're going to do the prequels and... there we go. This week we're going to do the prequels and Solo. Next week we're doing the original trilogy and Rogue One. And then following that we will do the sequel trilogy. And I guess the Mandalorian, but I haven't watched that, so my opinions on the Mandalorian don't exist. And I'm probably not going to catch up in the next 2 weeks.
That's insane, man. Mandalorian is so good. I'm not going to be here for the next 3 weeks. This is my last till the end of June, so I just want to say the Mandalorian and Empire. Everything else under that is my overall ranking.
Yeah, I could see that. Dan is moving, so he won't be here, which means it'll be me and Ben and either Massimo or David. Which I missed David's official debut as a co-host, which is a bummer. But
yeah, he was great last week.
Yeah, I look forward to working with him. Yeah. He was great on that first episode that no one listened to.
Apparently, I said June. I've just been corrected by my editor. It's the end of July that I'll be back. Thanks,
yes. June is over.
June is over. Yeah, June is over. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like, how fast it's raining, and it's like, what month is it? Where are we? Who are we? Can we go out yet? No, I don't think so. Like,
homie,
what's going on?
It was 108 degrees here last week.
Crazy.
I would happily take the rain.
I seen some guy, I don't know what it was like Arizona or something, and he was cooking steaks in the sun. He just had his frying pan out and just cooking steaks outside.
Yeah, this was like you could crack an egg on the asphalt and cook it, like level shit. It was
mental, man.
Yeah, at my work, we sold out of air conditioners almost immediately, and I spent the next few days telling people, no, we don't have air conditioners. No, we don't have fans. Good luck to you.
I don't know what it is.
It's awesome.
It's like
we even put up
24, 25 degrees here, and it's nuts.
I don't do well, man. I'm just a puddle in the heat.
We even put up signs saying we were out of stock on air conditioners and fans, and people still fucking came in and asked. And it's like, read.
Do people still ask for, was it Pokemon cards that get banned because people were killing each other in the car park over them?
I don't know. We didn't sell those in the first place.
Okay. Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, not my problem. We do not sell trading cards. Actually, I think we used to sell trading cards at the Best Buy, but that was before my time. So no one's asked about those.
The bad old days.
Yeah, right. I had a dream that I had a bunch of Pokemon. Like, I had all the ones from my childhood, and now I kind of want to order some off Amazon, but I'm not going to because, like, what would I do with that? Like,
you're becoming one of them.
That's
how you know you'll be stoked out at the Best Buy car park with your Glock.
Nostalgia is a powerful. No, okay, so Best Buy. It's not the Pokemon cards. It's fucking PS5s. Like, no, we don't have them in stock. No, we probably won't have them in stock until they're like 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. It's not real. They don't exist.
The only things. So the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and NVIDIA GTX 3000 series, I've seen them only when they come in on the truck because someone ordered them, and it's like seeing an endangered animal. You want to protect it, and you want to nurture it, and you want to hope it reproduces.
Stop the poachers.
Yeah. No, the Xbox is, so normally when someone orders something, we just keep it, like we have a whole section up front near the entrance where we keep order pickups. For the Xboxes, we keep them straight up in the asset protection room because we don't want anyone like sprinting over, grabbing one, and trying to run off.
My God.
People be crazy. Dude, someone tried to steal a Bluetooth speaker on a motorized scooter yesterday. They just they had their scooter, they grabbed it, and they're like, scoot it out of the store. And two of my managers chased them. You can't actually assault the customer, but you can like whack a box out of their hand. Yeah, retail's fun. It's really
sounds that US retail sounds special. Must admit.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very different thing from European retail. I can't be a dick to people. I wish I could. Good God. Good God, I wish I could. My Jesus.
Yeah, that would help.
Nostalgia, Ian. This is a quick wee thought. Do you guys remember your first kind of Star Wars experience?
Not really.
No. Yeah.
Unfortunately, my first memory was the prequels. It was, it was 98, the Phantom Menace came out, right? Or 99. So I'd have been around 3 or 4 years old. And I remember the...
Oh, that's right, you're young.
The cereal boxes you used to buy had like wee gold plastic C-3PO and R2-D2 and whatever in them. So basically, I remember all the marketing. I had some like annual book thing that had Darth Maul in the back, and it was like for the first film. And I never got to see the first film, The Phantom Menace, with my dad, and just at the time, probably not knowing any better, I thought it was fine. And then I don't actually know if I saw the prequel. If I saw the original trilogy before that or after that. But by the time Attack of the Clones came around, I knew better. I knew it was garbage by that point. So,
I guess if we're gonna go into that, let's just dive into it. So, I don't really remember, like with crystal clarity, my first Star Wars experience. I know it involved videotapes, which for Dan, that is. There used to be these plastic boxes that had film
Return
in
of
them,
the Jedi,
and you put them in a machine, and it would project that film onto the TV.
I'm older than him.
And so Ben, let me tell you about VHS tapes.
Yeah, actually, now that you say videotape,
it just leaves.
I had a Return of the Jedi videotape that actually stopped working because watched this so much. And that's probably still my favourite original trilogy film. That Empire.
And like most people, my favorite was The Empire Strikes Back, because for some reason, even
it's the good ones. It's the ones we are not talking about.
Look at that. It's the ones we're not talking about yet.
It didn't happen. That didn't happen.
It's good. That's a good hipster collection. Yeah. Even as a child, I had kind of a fascination with like darker stories and darker elements, and so the Empire Strikes Back, with its freezing in carbonite and the hand slicing off and he's his father, it appealed to me for some reason. I don't know. I'm still kind of like that. I'm a weird edgelord, which that'll be relevant. That'll be relevant later as well. And I read like some of the books that are now completely non-canon but were aimed towards kids. I read all of this before the prequels ever came out. I remember Phantom Menace coming out. I was like 7-ish. Shadows of the Empire also. I didn't play the game because I didn't have an N64, but I had a lot of the action figures, and I read a little comic that came with them. And I didn't really grasp the storyline because the comic only told you so much, but I really liked my Dash Rendar figure. That was woefully underused, now non-canonical Star Wars character. But yeah, that's kind of the earliest thing I remember is watching specifically Empire Strikes Back with
But
Hoth and all that on VHS.
But I guess all three of us were probably at the right age for the infamous marketing for the prequels, right? We'd all
Yes.
been kids, so it would
For
have been
at least
figures
one
and
of them.
videos
I mean,
and
depending on how old you are.
Yeah.
yeah. But
I think
yeah,
it
like
might have
prime
been
real
more
estate,
than
man.
that.
Like the amount of money, the amount of figures and toys and posters sold is astronomical, man. Crazy.
Yeah.
I had the Star Wars
I
watch film at
remember
school.
Revenge of the Sith. I was 13 when that came out. And I remember A, being super hyped for it because I hadn't yet accepted that all the prequels are garbage. And B, I looked up, I had like crappy AOL, like dial-up modem internet, but I found the script online. I guess that leaked before the movie came out.
Mm.
And so I had read the entire script before we went to go see the movie, and that was the earliest instance I can remember of me spoiling something for myself before I actually experienced it.
Yeah.
I still thought the movie was dope at the time, but that's the early. That just sticks with me because it's the earliest instance I can remember of me like looking up spoilers on the internet. Because I want to know what happened in that movie.
Did anyone download the Phantom Menace trailer? I remember you had to download that trailer. Obviously you couldn't stream it, and it took like I think my dad downloaded it. It took like a full night, and it was like the next day that we watched it, and even still it like paused, and we had to wait for the rest of it, and
buffering,
horrible. Dial up internet,
because really streaming media didn't really exist until at least earliest like functional streaming media really was like the mid 2000s. I don't think we had. At least I wasn't on the internet at that time, so I don't remember that. I just remember seeing trailers on TV.
We had a PC that was my aunt and uncle and cousin's old PC. It was a hand-me-down PC, and you could only go on it after 6 o'clock, and it had Solitaire on it, and it was great.
We had a PC, and I mean, at that point, like 97, 98, we had some... Like, I didn't really grow up with consoles. I had, like, a crappy PC, and we had some games on it. Like, I had, like, the PC version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and just a grip of DOS games that are still very near and dear to my heart. But I did not gain permission to go on the internet until I was, like, 8 or 9, so that would have been, like, 1999, 2000. So I was definitely online by the time like Attack of the Clones came out, but Phantom Menace was a purely offline experience for me.
I think so. For me, I was born 1997, so but weirdly enough, my first Star Wars was Phantom Menace, but it was also my first 3D cinema experience. I think it got re-released.
Really?
Right, the re-release. Okay.
In a 3D format, so I've seen that in the cinema. And that was the first time I'd seen one of the Star Wars. But for me, it was... I have no recollection of seeing Attack of the Clones at all. But it was Revenge of the Sith.
Until like yesterday.
The marketing. Like it was Revenge of the Sith for me when you were talking about marketing. Like, I was up in the marketing behind that. I was so looking forward to it.
The game was great. They had a game, and it was like there was a story mode, but there was also like a one-on-one Mortal Kombat type fight mode. It was great.
It was actually really good. Like
I had
shockingly
endings
good
and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
Yeah, that was better. I would say better than it had any right to be.
Yeah,
like better than the source material is what I would.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you had like the fight at the end, with Obi-Wan on Mustafar and stuff, and that was great.
Infinite endings was awesome.
So can we?
How do you want to go about this? Do you want to go from best
film
to
by
last,
film,
or
surely?
Just go film by film.
I think we would just discuss each film and then rank them at the end, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So
kind of talked about it already.
I guess may as well start with Phantom Menace. I think Phantom Menace gets an undue amount of hate.
Agreed. Phantom Menace, right? The thing is, there's some parts of it that are so bad, and there's some parts of it that are great. And it's not. It's never an okay film. It's always, what the hell is this? Or this is cool. Like there's never just.
It swings wildly back and forth in quality. Yes. Unlike Attack of the Clones, which is just.
Yeah.
We'll get there. You have to consider, and this is something I keep in mind when it comes down to it. Phantom Menace is a movie made for children.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. and that's why I think a lot of us, when we look back on it as kids, we're like, oh, I thought this was all right at the time, because at the time it was like, oh, Jar Jar's funny because we don't know what humor is yet.
No, I refute that. I never, ever liked Jar Jar.
Well, it's not my fault that you didn't have joy as a child.
I didn't. You're right. Chris Courtney always says that.
Well, then I'm on the right track. But I mean, there was some really cool shit. Like, obviously, pod racing was cool as hell.
Yeah,
like, that was a really cool sequence.
Again, good game, pod racing game.
Yes, that game was great, and I was so happy it got re-released. I think I have it on my computer. I at least downloaded the GOG version. I don't know if I installed it, but I do have it.
They had it in the arcade too. I remember playing it in the arcade, and you actually sat in the pod racer. Yeah,
I played that very recently. There was a food place near where I lived about 6 years ago that had a little arcade, and they had that machine, and me and a friend of mine played that for like an hour.
Nice.
And it was actually, it was really cool because like they had two levers that you like steered with, and it was a really, really cool experience still, even, you know,
20
years later.
Yeah.
Darth Maul, I think, is
brilliant character design. Yeah. Such a cool design.
Yeah,
like,
cool design, like menacing villain because he never said anything.
And Ray Park's talented, man. Like, you couldn't get a better stuntman to do the stunts. I mean, he didn't act, didn't say anything much at all. But the fight sequences are awesome.
I have long held.
I love flipping, but
I have long held that Count Dooku was a misstep, and they should have just kept Darth Maul the villain all the way up to the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Sure.
Which, I mean, Christopher Lee, excuse me.
Yes.
Lloyd is
that's a well different film.
When this pod racer hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit. Christopher Lee, obviously, Sir Christopher Lee, amazing actor. He was great. God rest his soul. Great as Sauron, great as Count Dooku, great as every other character he ever played. But I don't think he was a necessary addition to the prequels. They could have just kept Darth Maul throughout the whole first 2.5 movies. It would have been fine.
I wonder if he was added to give some sort of gravitas to it. I wonder if it was a case of like the original had like Peter Cushing and these classic actors and Alec Guinness, obviously, whereas the sequel
trying to get something similar.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why they went with Christopher Lee.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? Don't know.
Maybe.
Regardless of whether like he should be there or not, like especially in Attack of the Clones, he gives the best performance because it's Christopher Lee.
He's in a different movie than everyone else.
Everything he says.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant actor, just not a very good character.
He had a weird curvy handle lightsaber, and they really went all in with the weird lightsabers in the prequels.
Are we going to go into the slightly unfortunate parallels to certain questionable races in that film? Like how Watto is clearly...
Yeah, so Watto is clearly an Arab stereotype. You could argue, actually really is, you know, with the money grubbing and all that, you could argue that he is meant to be very directly a Jewish pastiche.
Yes, not great. And there's the Gungans, and there's I don't remember what the aliens were called. Yep, those guys.
That were clearly a very racist Chinese...
Yeah, not great, George.
They kind of got rid of that in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, they did.
Yes, thank Christ they did. Yes, they did. Yeah.
Did they ever do? Maybe this is a Mandela effect. I feel like they went and redubbed them in Phantom Menace eventually, but I might be wrong.
No. When I rewatched it recently before Rise of Skywalker, and they still had the horribly inappropriate accents and stuff. Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
the Gungans.
Yeah, they're not great.
I have a soft spot for Jar Jar, but in general, just like...
No, he's the worst. I hate him. I hate everything about him. I hate the way he looks. I hate the way he sounds. I hate everything he does. I hate the fact he's a bad racist stereotype. I hate everything about him, man. Like, no.
He's
a have terrible bombard vocal tick.
He's unforgivable.
That's my sick-ass Jar Jar impression that I've never done before right now.
It's pretty sick, man. You nailed it.
It's pretty good, though. Not bad.
I just bust those things out, you know. Should have been a voice actor. I'm wasting my talent here.
But are we going to touch on the best? Probably what's the best element in the first film, the score. Like
the
that
score
theme,
and the actual like visual design elements are both
that
really
yeah,
good.
that theme at the end, when the
Yeah,
doors
Duel of
open and
Fates.
like even
Oh,
though it's a terrible film, I still get chills. It's still such a brilliant score. Like
yeah,
it's
the
perfect.
Duel of the Fates still gives me the willies.
Yeah, yeah.
That is such a that like that's right up there with some of the music from the original trilogy and being instantly recognizable as as Star
Yeah,
Wars.
iconic. Yeah.
That's it's maybe the only piece of music from Phantom Menace I can like name off the top of my head.
Mm.
Not that I can name, but I could definitely remember some of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably somewhere if you played it, I'd be like, yeah, that's the thing where the stuff happens and things. So,
See,
Like a lot of
see,
celebratory stuff.
see at the start of the movie when they're infiltrating the what that is, the droid thing, right?
The separatist.
Right,
trade world, the
right.
Trade
Yes,
Federation,
the
whatever
dumb
the
political stuff, right? How come they use super speed and they never use it again?
Did he use super speed?
It's the
Yes,
same question I have about
yes,
Wonder Woman.
and it's not even a good effect. It's like they're just standing, they just zip away, like it's
I don't remember
horrible.
that at all.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah,
it's almost like they didn't. It's almost like it was added to. It was an idea after the fact that they were like, "Oh, this doesn't make sense. We have to find a way to." That's Jedi speed, which
and
I
then
mean,
they just never touch on it again. It's like that would have came in handy so
canonically,
many other times.
if you ever played the Jedi Academy game or the Jedi Knight games in Jedi Academy, canonically, yeah, I mean, you can use the Force for super speed. That's a thing.
Yeah. They'd say the Old Republic as well, you can do that.
That would have certainly came in handy on, I don't know, Mustafar or
Or like
in
anywhere.
in the Death Star and the original trilogy,
I
or
don't know,
Well,
yeah,
those are very compact places. That's
with Mustafar, it's kind of like, I
a
mean,
lot of
if it's two
shafts.
Jedis, like they could just both use super speed, and then it's well, they cancel each
it's not
other
very
out.
fun to watch.
Everything
Yeah,
around them goes really slow, but they're both just like going normal speed.
Yeah.
Clearly, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader had forgotten that any sort of speed was something that they could do by the time they were old men.
yeah,
We're not talking about that yet.
yeah.
So I think really, so Jar Jar is definitely a disliked element.
Mm.
Majorly, yeah.
I think the biggest tragedy of the Phantom Menace, though, is Anakin Skywalker for two reasons.
Yeah, it's a shame.
One, Jake Lloyd was a friggin' terrible child actor.
Now
Two,
this is pod racing.
Two,
He's fine. He's a
the
child actor.
harassment and
Yeah.
bullying that Jake Lloyd then endured because of
Yeah.
that, though, totally unacceptable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, that
That-
poor kid.
that guy's life was ruined. Yeah,
Yeah, it's horrible. There are plenty of like crappy child actors. It's really not their fault. They're kids. Like a good child actor is
Also,
something.
in that era as well, like it was more acceptable. I think nowadays with like Stranger Things and all these other
Yeah.
It and stuff, child actors, the standards got a bit better. Whereas in the late '90s, like loads.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me Macaulay Culkin was busting out Oscar-worthy material and fucking Home Alone?
I'd say it depends as well, because like Stranger Things isn't like a kids series or a kids film. That's
Yeah.
a serious thing, so it depends on that as well.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
the idea is that, like we said before, it's like a children's movie, so you're supposed to think you are Anakin. Like,
I've
that
always
could be me. Like, yeah,
I've always
I was
taken
never that much a douche.
your acting's better.
I've always taken issue with the way that they structured the prequels. I've said this many times to many people, but if I were to do the Star Wars prequels, you start there. There's a real acceleration in Anakin's plot that makes him hard to sympathize with.
Mhm.
He just goes straight from he's a kid, now he's a 19-year-old, now he's
Yeah.
angsty.
Yeah.
I would start, if I were going to do the prequels, I would start with Anakin and Obi-Wan already paired together. Liam Neeson is great. Qui-Gon has no place in. He was a good part of that movie, but like he has no place in that prequel trilogy. You start off with Anakin already as Obi-Wan's apprentice. You establish that relationship in the first movie. The second movie, and he's already at least a teenager, young adult, 17-ish starting off. The second movie, you start to have his descent to the dark side. Third movie, you just go full Vader. Whereas we had kind of like the first movie, he's a kid that no one likes. Second movie, like he starts to go kind of dark, and then the third movie, we get Vader like 2/3 of the way through. Like I was hoping for a third movie where you really get to see the rise of Vader instead of just like, hey, he's Vader at the end, I guess.
And also, if you did that, you wouldn't have the weird child grooming scene that you have in Phantom Menace when Queen Amidala does a bit of a Jeffrey Epstein on young Anakin.
Ooh, that whole relationship is a real
You
problem.
would totally avoid all of that creepiness.
Yeah, because
So,
if you look at Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, like they look like they're in the same age range. You forget that, like, though I think isn't Padme supposed to be like 14 in the first movie? Like she's supposed to be
yeah,
like
I
a
think
really
so.
young queen. So I mean, 6-year age gap. By the time it's like he's 18, she's 24. It's a little less weird. It's still weird, but a little less weird. But the fact that she met him as a
if you think of them
child,
as actors as opposed to characters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like on paper, you're like, yeah, sure, it's only 4 years, whatever. But looking at the actors, you're like, whoa, that's weird. Yeah, totally different thing.
yeah.
Also, just something that's always bothered me. Like this isn't something to do with the film, really, but the fact that Anakin made C-3PO just makes the whole thing feel small. The whole universe feel really small and contrived.
That
like
is
that's always bothered me.
That's a problem you run into not just with Star Wars, but I've found it's a problem that runs rampant anytime a series is extended with any sort of sequel or especially prequel material. For some reason, they always feel the need to tie everything together. Oh, this person was actually this person's uncle,
everyone's someone's son, and it's always it's your destiny. It's like, no, it can just be an adventure. Like you don't need somebody's destiny.
It doesn't have to be connected. You could have it be a completely disconnected story that leads up to these events.
Listen, let's just blame the Bible, right? It's probably because of the Bible that this has all happened. Like, look at like all the Chosen One stuff that's came since then. It's all the Bible's fault.
I'm pretty sure you could blame a lot of things on the Bible. Modern war.
But most importantly though, like Star Wars movies, right? It's like above everything else.
Racism is bad, but the Star Wars prequels are really that's really what we need to stamp out.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I've got much more to say about the first film, but I just bad.
It is
overall. It's peaks and troughs, but overall, it's just not good.
So I will say this about the first film. There was no point, whether it's good or bad, for better or worse, there was no point in the first film where I'm sitting there going, I'm bored. Can we move on to the next thing?
Sure.
Which is not something I can say about our next film, Attack of the Clones, wherein I spent the entire time of Anakin and Padme's romantic staycation going, I'm bored. Can we move on to the next thing?
So honestly, I'd say the opposite in that case. Like, for the
Ben, you love slow shit, man. You're like, oh, the Eternals looks good because it looks like they did nothing the whole film.
Right, so man. Yeah. So you just watched Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
Give us your thoughts. Give us what's in that brain of yours under all that hair.
Watching it again, thank you. It had like and this is going to sound weird, but it's like it totally makes sense in my mind. It has like a very lively, especially the whole kind of first half of it. It has like a very lively childhood or children's film of Blade Runner. The whole aesthetic of it. It looks very lived in.
I actually do kind of like the.
Is that the Sixth Sense, the Fifth Element car chase sequence?
Yeah,
right.
I actually do like that first introduction. I like the introduction to that movie. I like the car chase. I like that part is really cool.
The whole that whole situation is like some of the dialogue. I said that last night while I was watching it, just and we were saying the whole Padme stuff with Anakin. When she first sees him, it's like the eyes she gives him is like, oh no, like. Oh,
I met you when you were 9 years old, and now I want you to bang me.
Literally, she looks him right in the eyes and goes, "You'll always be that little boy to me." Entirely. Like,
yeah, she does. Yeah.
God.
George, you can't do that, George. Can't be doing that. That's.
I wanna. There's that, and then like. And I'll come back to this when we talk about Loki. But like the dialogue between Padme and Anakin is awful.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, as bad as the plot to this thing is, as bad as some of the CGI are, as bad as like some of the acting is. The worst thing is the script. The worst thing is the dialogue. Like by far, I think
And
that's the worst part of this movie.
That's a running
Ewan
theme
McGregor's not
throughout
even
all
good enough.
3 prequels.
Yeah, a lot of bad dialogue.
Oh yeah, aye, for the most part, yeah. I'd say see the CGI, man. I think it's really good. Like
It
I
was
can't
really
really
good
think
for
of
the
anything.
time.
Really?
Maybe.
It
Like
was
when
okay.
The green
It was
when they're
screen
really
talking to
good
effects.
for
the
the
thing
time.
and the big dinosaurs come in.
I
Oh,
get you
it's
there.
horrible.
Yeah.
It looks, I'm going to say Space Jam. It looks worse than Space Jam. Like,
The CGI. I was 12 or something when that movie came out, so or 11 or 10 or 9, 8, 7. It was all right for the time. It's just George Lucas leaned so hard on the CGI that it's super noticeable now that it's aged almost 20 years.
It's
as
the green
opposed to if
screen
you
stuff.
used
It's
yeah,
quite bad.
if he had a more subtle use of CGI, you'd be like, that's iffy looking, but it doesn't take me out of the experience.
yeah. Like let's be honest. As much as people love the original trilogy, and this might get a bit of hate, some of the effects in that are pretty naff by today's standards. But it's still more acceptable. Like I can still go, it was the 80s and it was practical. They tried. Whereas with these movies, it's like it was just a CGI world. Everything was the backgrounds, the floor, the
Everything
monsters.
was blue
Everything
screen.
was blue screen. And I also think I realize these people are actors and that's kind of part of their craft. But I realize I also believe that you get a worse performance out of an actor opposite a ping pong ball than you do opposite an actual practical dragon or whatever. You know, I don't know. I think that makes a difference as well.
Yeah,
And the
that's
performances.
why you have Benedict Cumberbatch crawl around on the floor doing a dragon voice.
Sure.
Yeah,
everyone's scared of that.
I'm scared of Benedict.
I wouldn't want him crawling about my floor doing dragon noises.
I wouldn't want him crawling on my floor. My
No.
floor is very dirty. He deserves but better than that.
You clean it for him.
I will say,
vacuum before Benedict Cumberbatch comes over and does dragon noises. You make that spotless. He's going to get it all over his Sherlock cloak. He'll cast a magic spell on you. He'll Doctor Strange your ass.
So I will say about the story of it, and it's more so the visuals. While like some may say that they're very dated in their CGI, the landscape shots look incredible in this, as they all kind of do throughout the prequels. Like that whole section of being in Camino is like it's breathtaking seeing all of that.
If you were to mute the prequels and cut them down just to establishing shots and landscapes, and you look at that and you'd be like, these movies seem amazing, and why do people not like them? Because the visual design in Star Wars has never been a problem. That's always been, even the worst Star Wars has great art design.
Yeah.
Granted, the prequels, I will always have the problem with the fact that the prequels look like they take place 1,000 years after the original trilogy.
Sure.
I guess you could make an argument that, oh, well, the Empire took over and everything got all dilapidated and people are just like, living as best they can. But I feel like that doesn't work because the Empire is all about order and structure. And if anything, the technology would get more advanced under their reign, I feel. So you definitely have kind of that disconnect of like, it's the same problem I have with Prometheus versus Alien. Like, okay, this takes place so far in the past, but everything looks so much more advanced than it does in the originals.
Yeah. Something else I've always struggled with. When in Star Wars, when somebody pulls out a lightsaber, it's a thing. It's like, and it's this, epic thing. See, in Attack of the Clones, everybody in their grand has a lightsaber, and they're just swinging them about willy-nilly, and it totally takes anything special away from that weapon. It's like any Tom, Dick, and Harry can get one. This is just like, I don't know, it takes a novelty out of it, I think.
Well,
I disagree.
On one hand, it's like this is before the Jedi Purge, so there were a shit ton of Jedi. So yeah, there are a bunch of people with lightsabers.
But I feel like that weapon, it's like it's sacred and it's got all this like history and force.
It's less of a like. It's less of a when the lightsaber's busted out in the original trilogies. It's always a moment. Like it's always it's a this is its own thing. Like, oh shit, Luke Skywalker took out the lightsaber. Something's gonna happen. Whereas with the prequels, they kind of went, "Oh, y'all like lightsabers?
They went lightsaber happy. Yeah.
What if we just have lightsabers in like every scene and people are flippy with them?"
It's the same rule as a horror film. The less you show the monster, the more intimidating it is. So
Yeah.
the less you show the lightsaber, the more epic it is when it comes out. Whereas
Right.
if you've just got one in every frame, it's like, well, who cares? Like,
Well,
it's
it's
overexposure.
I'd argue, like, so with the original trilogy, with it being like a special occasion for like, oh, like lightsaber, oh, this is incredible, like, oh, isn't this great? And yeah, you know why they're like big? Because you can't do anything else with that lightsaber. They're just out, and then you're gonna go.
But I would
with,
also answer
with
not
the
that I'm defending the wooden fighting from A New Hope, right? But I also feel like they did overcompensate. It was like, oh well, Alec Guinness and David Prowse were pure wooden, so let's have Ray Park and CGI Christopher Lee, 8-year-old Christopher Lee doing flips over each other.
it's not even CGI, man.
Yoda.
It's like yeah,
That's
with Yoda it's CGI, but with
that's
Christopher Lee
no
it's just
no
a stand-in
no
that
the
you can
CGI.
tell.
No, some of it's CGI. Some of it's
Some of it
definitely
is.
CGI. The throne room. I mean, we'll get to Revenge of the Sith, but the throne room sequence, a lot of that's CGI old man flying about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It's
I think
go for it.
Red Letter Media with their Plinkett reviews kind of hit the nail on the head with the Star Wars stuff, with the lightsaber stuff in the prequels, and that the original trilogy, every lightsaber fight had some real emotional content behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of the lightsaber fights in the prequels, they're just like, let's see how cool we can make this look. But you don't get that, like, you don't get the same visceral emotional feeling that you do. Like, you don't see the feelings in the same way that you do when like Luke is battling Vader in, the Emperor's throne room, where it's not fancy.
I don't
It's
need
not
it to be like
flashy.
emotional all the time. Sometimes I just want to see flippy shit.
I also think though this film had a lot to live up to in terms of like the Clone Wars were always this kind of mythical thing that they spoke about in the
Right.
original trilogy. Me and your father fought in the Clone Wars together, blah blah blah, all that part. And then when you see it and it's just a bunch of CGI
Turns out it's
stormtroopers
a
fighting a
bunch of
bunch of
CGI Boba
CGI
Fett's.
droids, it's like who cares? And then every other Jedi with a different colored lightsaber, it's like this is shit.
Lucas was like, people
I'd
liked
argue it's
Boba Fett,
action
right?
packed.
What if the clones were just a million Boba Fetts?
Yeah.
But that's cool. I like that.
Well, and granted, with extended universe stuff like the Clone Wars TV show and the Bad Batch and all that, they've managed to take the clones and do some interesting stuff with them. The Republic Commando game.
Yeah, but that's because Dave Filoni's a bit writer than George Lucas.
Right, and in Attack of the Clones itself, it was like, okay.
It shouldn't have been called Attack of the Clones. I think
I guess this is where Stormtroopers came from.
Yeah, it's not a good title either.
Yeah, because it is like the clones come in at the very end. They attack at the
end.
And
also, I feel like the clones aren't the villain of the piece yet, at least. So it's kind of weird. Like attack of blah blah. That makes it sound like they are they're the aggressing force. They are should have been like, I don't know, Attack of the Droids or something, or Padme and Anakin sit in the field for half an hour and make googly eyes.
If anything, Order 66 is the Attack of the Clones. Do you know what I mean? And that happens in the next movie.
Yeah.
If anything's Attack of the Clones, it's Order 66. So.
Yeah. That's Attack of the Clones, and it's only in the last 20 minutes.
And are we going to talk about I Hate Sand, or are we just that just goes down to bad dialogue? Like
that entire film. Well, actually, I was about to say that entire film becomes about 20% better if you cut out the entire Anakin and Padme sit in a field and make googly eyes at each other sequence.
Good meme template though.
We wouldn't have the relevant memes of it though.
Yeah, it's good meme template.
One relevant meme that everyone's overused in the past 3 weeks.
Speak to
as you do with memes
right now. Use Fast and Furious 9 memes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're an investor in the meme market, that one's going off a cliff. Don't. It's had its time.
Let's get those NFTs set up. You know what I'm saying? It's time to get rich, boys.
Get on the Vin Diesel memes. They're top tier now.
I'd argue Attack of the Clones is really good for its action. Whether it's like it can be a bit like weird at times, the action, not compared to like some of the action we've seen in the sequel trilogy.
I think the problem is
It seems grander.
Attack the Clones swings back and forth on quality even harder than Phantom Menace does to me.
Attack of the Clones, in fact, all the prequel trilogy, I'd say the action's too floaty. That's the problem. There's not enough weight to any of the characters or any of the environments. It all seems like a cartoon character standing on a cartoon ground fighting with a cartoon weapon. Like none of it
Because
feels
it is
real. Do you know what I mean? That's the issue. There's no weight to it.
Yeah.
I think if there's any, yeah, I could, especially with the kind of free beasts at the end, like it doesn't seem like they're just all of a sudden dead, and it's like you got pushed over.
It feels like early 3D video games. Like I feel like
yeah, I mean it's a product. It is a product of its time.
I think that's just what it is. It's like it plays out like a video game cutscene.
Yeah, well,
but it was also trying to run before they could walk. I think. It was over ambition. It was everybody around Lucas being a yes man and being like, this will work. Let's just make a big dumb cartoon. Like there was too much of that. Like they were trying to run before they could walk. Do you know what I mean? That's the issue.
I mean, especially if you watch the behind the scenes like making of any of those films, like it's a lot of people just like applauding Lucas and patting him on the back when maybe someone should have been like, "What if we don't do that though?"
Jar Jar is the key to all of this. Remember that?
Jar Jar's the funniest character we've ever had.
Yeah.
The whole movie doesn't work if he doesn't work. What if Padme was a pedophile?
Have you ever seen the bloopers and it's like the big kind of singularity engine scene, but it's just the blue screen effect of it, and you just see Padme go like, "This isn't in the movie. What is this?"
What if we brought Liam Neeson in for one movie and then no one ever cared about him ever again? We'll mention him in the third one, like once at the end.
They did mention him in this one as well. They make a big thing about him and Count Dooku because Dooku used to be, Qui-Gon used to be.
Oh, Dooku was pointless too, so get rid of both of them.
No, he's lovely.
I love both those actors, but their characters are so easily removable from that entire. The prequel should have been a story about Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And there's so much extra side shit going on that doesn't need to be there.
Also, obviously,
it makes it bigger though. It gives her that grander feel.
Obviously, it's hard to know what age Darth Maul was, right? Because of all the makeup. But he seemed like he was quite a young character. Why would an old man still be like the underling Sith? That always bothered me as well. I'm like, you should be in charge of someone. You should be like still the messenger boy, the bitch.
That's the whole thing with like Obi-Wan.
It's not about age; it's about power.
I don't know. That always annoyed me. That always bothered me.
Well, yeah, like
especially when you get Christopher Lee, who is an imposing villain. He can do Sauron and Dracula, and then you've got Menace as like some wee messenger boy with a limp dick lightsaber. Like,
didn't they? I feel like his relationship with Sidious was different than Darth Maul's. I feel like they set up Count Dooku. Like again, he was Count Dooku, not Darth Dooku.
Yeah.
He was kind of just like his own. He was almost mercenary-ish dark Jedi.
Yeah.
That just happened to be working with that side.
Mm.
He made it a thing of like.
That sounds cool. You could probably make a film out of that. That would be interesting.
They made it a thing like he was almost. He didn't actually want to. He wanted to basically overthrow Sidious and have Obi-Wan be the new.
They always do.
I know.
They always do.
The way they go about it, it's as if like he's almost, as you say, like a dark Jedi. He's not a full-on Sith. They do. No, you would not say like, oh no, he's fully dark side. You can't trust him anymore. But there is like an element of he's not fully. He's almost like ahead of the curve and things, and he's kind of like looking at both sides.
Just talk about the Sith and stuff. What do you guys think about the rule of two that they introduced in the prequels? Like there can only be two Siths at once. Yeah, right. It's super limiting, and it's super limited. Like Star Wars going forward, I think forever.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Very arbitrary.
It feels like something. I mean, they kind of say that like they introduced the rule of two after the Sith. There were too many of them, and they were all power hungry, and so they all killed each other. So I kind of get the logic there, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you want to like fight the Jedi or whatever, but there's like 10,000 of them and like 2 of you. That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Dooku makes a whole thing about like, oh, you're outnumbered. It's like there's two of you.
But
mate.
you could maybe look at
Entire
that and be
army.
like, okay, well, maybe Sidious clearly knows that because his entire thing isn't one-on-one brute force. It's
manipulation, kind of.
it's being insidious. That's where they got the name from.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, that it sort of works, but I also think it's dumb. It's dumb, but they made it work in a way.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it has that kind of like. It's
they work based on
Star
manipulation and treachery because there's only two of them, because they can't have
way,
that like power versus power, might versus might kind of conflict.
The best way you can probably justify it is just saying like, oh yeah, it's just one of those Star Wars things. It's something that doesn't make a lot of sense, but we accept it nonetheless. We're just like, yeah.
But you know what? Let's talk about the actual dumbest thing they introduced in the prequels. You're a Jedi because you have tiny things living in you.
Yeah, okay, let's go into
that. Forgot about that. Terrible.
Midi-chlorians!
It just, honestly, it was, to me, it's just an overcomplication of what it is. Like,
it is.
Alec Guinness said it best in A New Hope when he just said it's all around us, and it is what it is.
It's you.
That's
it's
okay.
Me. Okay, that's more the Beatles and Alec Guinness. You have the force.
Bingo, it's you.
Do you want to have a lightsaber fight, Dewey Cox?
Do you want some LSD, Dewey?
Do you want some LSD, Anakin?
That's no moon.
Maybe if someone gave Anakin some LSD, he wouldn't have like gone so hard to the dark side. I don't know.
I was gonna
give that boy some mushrooms. He'll be fine.
Just a quick tangent. If you really want to enjoy the prequels,
do drugs.
Look out a YouTube series called under the name Oral Notes. It's like overdubbed, and they make their own story from it. It's masterfully done, and it's some of the funniest stuff you'll ever see.
Do you want to cut off your weird ponytail, Obi-Wan?
Midi-chlorians.
Midi-chlorians are dumb, and Star Wars is such a mythological thing. There's no reason they couldn't have been like, I don't know, Immaculate Conception. Who cares? Whatever. Yeah. He's a magical wish boy, and he's going to become the worst fucking Hitler ever.
It's the Bible. It's just it's the Bible meets Hitler. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's like we didn't need and okay, so and then George Lucas's idea for the sequel trilogy was for them to shrink down to microscopic level and fight midi-chlorians inside someone. You guys read that?
Yeah, I have heard something about that before.
Good God.
Yeah.
I don't even like the sequel trilogy in hindsight, and like I'll take what we got over that. Just always remember it could have been worse.
The same as Alien 3.
Should
y'all want to talk about Revenge of the Sith?
I was going to say, should we get on to the good one?
Yeah, you want to talk about the best one?
Right. So
when
I was rewatching,
I think we're gonna agree. I think we're gonna disagree on this.
When I was rewatching them all for Last Jedi, I suffered. I really did suffer through Phantom Menace, some of it, and then obviously Attack of the Clones is horrible, so I suffered a lot through that. And I kept thinking back, Courtney was like, "Oh, this is horrible. Can we put this off?" And I'm like, "No, we need to watch them all for the new one coming out." This is before I knew what the Last Jedi was going to be. Right, I was still naive and innocent and not broken. So we're rewatching those. And I'm going, it'll be fine. The third one's good. Revenge of the Sith's good. That'll get us through. I got to Revenge of the Sith and I was like, this is what I was waiting for. This is what I thought was going to be the saving grace of this shitty trilogy. It's so bad. It's so much worse than I ever remembered it being.
No,
it's terrible. It's garbage. The last 50 minutes are okay. The act is not great. The script is horrible, but I like the set. I like Mustafar, and I like the fight, and I like seeing Anakin be made into Vader up to a point with a no.
I like the part where Anakin kills children.
Yeah, that's a good bit too. But see the first like 2/3, 3/4 of that film, absolute trash. Like just the worst, garbage. Okay, how did you guys feel about it?
It's the best Star Wars film there ever was.
How really?
Better than everything.
Do it.
Better. Ben, have you watched Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Do it.
And you prefer if I was to
head rough.
if I was to ask you tonight, what would you rather watch?
Stab him in the dick.
Revenge of the Sith are two different things, I'd say.
Okay,
They're
so
both great for their own reasons. So I talked about Attack of the Clones being like action packed. Like that whole opening scene of Revenge of the Sith is like, this is Star Wars. I am in Star Wars. It's not bland.
This
it's not weird
is
looking.
Star
it's
Wars
incredible.
racing.
what do you mean the opening scene with they go in and fight Dooku and stuff?
Yeah, had that whole like.
I think that's one of the first. I think that's one of the worst scenes in cinema. Like just overall.
I think
I'd
are.
ask as well. Like, what's your point of comparison for like? The
I think there are parts of that opening that aren't great. There's some humor in it that's like, it's bad Star Wars prequel jokes that aren't funny. But there are parts that are also good. Like I actually do find a little bit of humor in like the what is it? They're waiting for something to happen in when they're running along. Like I don't remember if it's like force fields that come up or like they're waiting for an elevator or some shit. And I actually thought that was kind of funny because they're very like they're almost self-aware about it.
But my thing with that though, as you were saying earlier, Ian, I feel like that third film should have been dark all the way through. That should be the darkest Star Wars film, and it starts off super light and comedic for the first like half hour.
Light and comedic, like
up until
action
Dooku gets decapitated, it's pretty light, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, they're they're trying to reestablish like, okay, here's Anakin and Obi-Wan, and like they're having a good old time being Jedis, and like they got this relationship, and I get that. And then you get to the part where they finally, they meet Dooku and Palpatine in the what is clearly an homage to the Death Star throne room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we're like, all right, well, Anakin is gonna cut a dude's head off now.
Yeah.
Oops. Guess it's not that to me. It's not that it starts off haha funny and then it's dark. It's that it's such a jarring tonal shift. There's no like gradual shift to it. It's just like, haha, we're having adventures die.
Yeah.
Perfect. Peak cinema. Daniel Day-Lewis couldn't do it better himself.
I am something of an actor. I'm actoring like I don't want to puke thinking about these movies.
Nailed it.
And
scene.
my favorite thing about the third film, I really like the effect of Anakin's hand. I think the robot hand looks great.
That's aged well. Really good.
Yeah, that still looks good.
It's great.
Give it props for that.
What's your point of comparison for like the script being bad within like Star Wars?
It's like, the part where every piece of dialogue makes me go, humans wouldn't say that.
What do you mean? What do you mean comparison, Ben? What do you mean?
As in, like, what to you is like the within like Star Wars, scripts. Like, what to you is like the best script, and what would be the worst script?
Mandalorian is the best script.
Yeah,
I like the dialogue in that show.
I think in the original trilogy, people actually talk like people that exist in the real world.
Power converters.
Okay, that's one line of dialogue.
Oh, it's everything. It's everything Mark Hamill does in that film. Is it like 5 times the speed?
Well, Mark Hamill. First of all, Mark Hamill isn't the one that said nerf herders. It was.
Yeah, no, power converters.
Power converter. He's more about power converters being a whiny bitch.
Oh, power converters.
That part.
We should be power converters. Can't even do
it. Yeah.
I mean, Luke Skywalker's a whiny bitch. Like, let's just get that out of the way.
And I would also say, like, the original films, they aren't really. It's not really the dialogue that they're remembered for fondly. The dialogue just wasn't super distracting and horrible like it is in the prequels.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
The delivery of that dialogue was a lot less stilted and like cringy.
But I still don't know if I'd say Hayden Christensen's a bad actor. I still don't. No. I think Ewan McGregor's a great actor. I don't think
any of them are bad
like,
actors.
They're still good cast. Yeah,
I think an actor is, with the exception of some completely extraordinary actors that really take things and run with it by themselves, an actor is really only as good as the production and direction of the film.
Yeah.
So if George said, I want you to say it like this, and they say it like that, and we don't like it, and they probably didn't necessarily like it either.
Sure.
That's the movie you're going to get, no matter how good the actor is.
Yeah. And see, I think that's a danger. Like, a lot of people say, a lot of people can apologise for these films and justify them by saying, even if you don't like them, it's this one guy's vision. It's a rare time in Hollywood that a
He's an auteur.
visionary has made a whole trilogy, or a whole, well, no, I guess the first one weren't really him.
Okay.
But he's made a whole trilogy in his own vision, and that's kind of appreciated.
But what if their vision sucks?
Yeah, that's the snag, unfortunately.
Like, you could say the same thing about Zack Snyder, and I have before, but like, what if that vision's not very good?
Yeah. I mean, look at a lot of people say that about Quentin Tarantino since his editor died. I can't remember the lady's name that used to edit for him off the top of my head, but she worked with him up until Inglourious Bastards, and since then, a wee bit long in the tooth, a wee bit, yeah, not as sharp as he used to be with his films. And yeah, I wonder that with these.
Unchained.
So did I. I still like Tarantino, but yeah, George Lucas needed an editor. Is my point. He needed someone to say, "Well, hold on, this isn't going to work. Let's change this."
The original trilogy had,
but this needs fixed. Like, yeah,
the original trilogy had a lot of different voices other than George Lucas contributing that don't really get credit, but he was not like the single soul. He was the idea man for sure, but like there were other people like writing and putting their input into those movies. Versus with the prequels, they were kind of like, "All right, George, whatever you want."
Yeah,
which was maybe not the best thing.
It's never. But that's the thing. You can have someone that genuinely is a genius. That's never a good method of making a film. Do you know what I mean? It's never. It doesn't matter who it is.
I feel like a collaborative effort is almost always going to be better than just a singular yes man sort of thing. Because like even the best ideas, like the person who made those ideas, there are going to be flaws in them that they're not going to see because they're too enamored with their own. Their own idea, and it's not even necessarily an ego thing. It's just you're too close to it.
And I also think having someone to bounce ideas off of, like, do you know what I mean? That helps.
Boil down to like your level of passion for the thing as well. Like I think in recent days, a lot of it is a paycheck, and I think the prequels were a paycheck for George Lucas. You can kind of make that out.
I mean, I think the prequels were more than a paycheck to him. I think it really was as much of a passion project as anything else. I think it's just he didn't have anyone to like tell him no, or like, hey, maybe we should rewrite this or do this differently.
Yeah,
he didn't have a Lawrence Kasdan, you know.
But I mean, I realize we're not in the sequel trilogy yet, but that was kind of the opposite problem. That was, let's not make this one person's vision. Let's have different auteurs put their own spin on it, and then Rian Johnson ruined everything with the Last Jedi.
The problem with that was that
there was never a plan.
It wasn't just a collaborative effort. It was literally completely different teams working on different movies.
Sure. Yeah.
Versus like if it had been J.J. Abrams and a bunch of people working with him throughout, I think we would have had a more cohesive.
I mean, I guess you need, like, Marvel have nailed it right, because they've had a Kevin Feige all the way through it, right?
Right.
But they've still had Taika putting his own spin on it. They've still had other directors,
different writers, but you have that one. You do have that one singular driving force behind it who's kind of steering the ship, and then everyone else kind of like swirls their ideas around that singular vision. Which is,
I guess that's the recipe,
yeah. So I mean, how do we rank these? Like for me, it's if we're going from worst to best.
Are we doing Solo in this, or are we doing prequels and then Solo?
I've got a hard out in about 30 minutes, so I don't know how much you guys want to talk about news and Loki.
Right, let's all do a sentence on Solo. Ben, what do you think of it?
It didn't need to exist.
Yeah, wholly unnecessary.
It's not bad, but it didn't need to exist.
Yes, fun, but no, why? Just it was a money maker. It was like Ben was saying, it's a paycheck. That's all it was, really.
I think everyone in it was a good actor. The guy, he's not Harrison Ford, but he wasn't really trying to be. I liked Childish Gambino as young.
Even though
Calrissian.
Weird relationship with that robot.
I was not a fan of weird hardline feminist robot. That was
but
that was the closest to the prequels that got, actually.
Speaking about characters unnecessarily pulling out a lightsaber, the Darth Maul cameo, like, why did they pull that lightsaber when it was a hologram? That was weird.
I popped hard for it. Like I got super excited, and that made me.
That's why people put it in there. It was 100% fan service.
That was all I remember from it.
The only parts of that movie I really had a problem with was you're by yourself, huh? Well, we're gonna put you down to Solo.
Oh,
That was
The wee
prequel levels
dice
of
as well,
over-explaining,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
and the
The
weird
Kessel
robot.
Run just didn't need to happen.
Yeah, that was talk about like the
Sorry.
Clone Wars, something that sounds cool in hindsight, and then when you see it, you're like, yeah.
It was Solo was a lot of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, you guys remember? You guys know this thing? You guys seen Star Wars?
I like the train sequence though.
The train sequence was really cool and could have been its own movie that had nothing to do with Han Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
you
could
might
have just had a Star Wars movie starring Woody Harrelson. Like,
Yeah. Sure.
why not?
Let's go for that.
So for me, worst to best, it goes Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, Solo.
Okay.
Dan, do you want to go?
Sure. From worst to best, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, Solo.
Ooh, subversive.
Oh, here we go, guys.
Maybe we should have listed our rankings first so that we could then explain them.
I was going to say...
Oh, well, it's too late now.
Yeah. So, here we go. It's kind of a toss-up between the first two. But I'm going to say, for recency bias, Attack of the...
I think you're going to go with
Menace.
Phantom Menace.
No, I've screwed this up. I've done it all wrong. So, Solo, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith.
Ours? No, they weren't. I guess ours were perfect opposite, but they weren't quite. That's interesting.
I think it's impossible. So as unnecessary as Solo is, I think it's impossible to argue that it is like objectively a worse movie than any of the prequels.
When I guess we all rank it based on their own reasons, but for me, when somebody asks me to like rank a list, it's like, what order would you want to watch those movies tonight? If it was like you have to watch one of them, I'd watch Solo tonight, and then if that wasn't an option, I'd watch Phantom Menace, and then if that wasn't an option, I'd watch Revenge of the Sith, and then if it was Attack of the Clones, I'd just burn the telly because
I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like Attack of the Clones, that movie bores me. There's some good sequences to it. The beginning's really good, but like, I just don't care about most of that movie.
Whereas
at least Phantom Menace, I'm like, all right, the pod racing's coming up. All right, the lightsaber fight's coming up. Like, there's beats in it where I'm like, okay, I do like, I'll watch this part. I think we all put.
How do you do it in point tracking?
I think we all put Revenge of the Sith as well. No, you put Revenge of the Sith as your number 2.
I wouldn't have Revenge of the Sith as the best. I'm sorry, I refuse.
Well, you're wrong, but that's fine.
I refuse.
Yeah.
I'd accept Phantom Menace. But I refuse to accept Revenge of the Sith as the best prequel movie. It's not.
You accept Phantom Menace as the best of the prequel movie?
Oh yeah, I'd rather watch Phantom Menace over Revenge of the Sith tonight.
My eyes just started hurting for no reason, and I think it's because that bad of a take gave me a headache.
Is it the bullshit coming through the webcam?
Oh, it is. Jesus, can't even look at you.
Right, okay, we'll maybe write this off.
Phantom Menace for me are like interchangeable. It kind of depends. They're both the kind of same for me.
Do you know what? It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to be on for the next 3 weeks, so you guys can fight over this when I'm not here.
All right, so what if it's Attack of the Clones? All right, worst to best, like overall average. What if it's Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, Solo? I refuse to hear that Solo is the worst of the bunch.
It's the best of the bunch. Also, well, I remember reviews for Rogue One.
We're not talking about Rogue One yet.
Reviews for Rogue One, Jedi Fallen Order, and other Star Wars stuff on the website. I'll link it below.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah, but I'm not here for 3 weeks, and those are my reviews, so you'll deal with it.
That sounds like a you problem, buddy. That's what we think about the prequels.
Don't watch
stuff
them.
You probably don't or don't.
Stuff to watch.
What's a Clone Wars?
Don't,
really good.
Don't watch them. We don't talk about that. It started out bad, and then I heard it got really good, but I haven't watched it myself.
Disney Plus need to put the proper order. They don't.
I've seen some clips that seemed all right.
Yeah, aye, it's fine.
It's
good.
So, in other things,
that thing.
I didn't speak over it this week.
So we just spent an hour talking about Star Wars, so it's gonna be good. News. There was some news. There was a news article or two. There was a thing that happened. Some things that happened.
Lovecraft Country has been cancelled. Do you guys care?
People are mad about that. So
Didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either. So the thing that I gather people seem to be angry about with Lovecraft Country is between that and Watchmen being canceled after one season, or at least not even canceled. Just there's not a second season announced. Like I don't think they officially were like no.
See, I think it's a different case. I think Watchmen was that case, but I think Lovecraft Country has been. I think there was plans in place for season 2 because apparently we're going to bring in zombies and other things, and it's all been and the actors didn't know this was happening until like the other week when it came out. So it's slightly different. I think Watchmen knew it was a one and done, whereas I don't know if these guys did.
Well, there's kind of a narrative being formed around that like HBO is intentionally canceling like black-led TV shows. I think that's a coincidence, but I maybe don't have the room to speak on that matter.
With Lovecraft Country, it started off really good. I watched the first season. It started off great. I loved it. By the end, I was kind of like, I don't care about this or any of these characters. And it wasn't. It wasn't even like, I don't even know if it was the show's fault. I think it was more me. Do you know what I mean? I was just in a better. I was more up for it when it started, and by the end, I was just watching it because I kind of like commitment to it. I was like,
there's some. I mean, there's an argument to be made that like that show's not made for us as pasty ass lily white people.
Really?
That's what some people would say.
Oh. I'd say it's
I've never really thought of it that way.
Informative for our types.
But Jonathan Majors is doing well. He's Kang, so he doesn't care.
Yeah, right.
And he's a great actor. So
I mean, when it comes down to it, a lot of shows these days get canceled after their first season. Like everything Netflix makes get canceled after its first season. Everything. So I really think that's less endemic to, hey, we're silencing media that is made with the voices of people of color, and more that like, hey, we just cancel shit after one season. Like, whatever.
I could speculate this that it looks like it's without really knowing anything about the show. I've heard that it was based on a book.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So they've by the looks of it, they've essentially done the entire story of the book, and then we're looking into, okay, well, how can we make this our own now in the second season? And they just couldn't.
Which, if anyone's watched any TV adaptations of books that then move beyond the book, they know that's almost always a bad idea.
Yeah, and end on a high note. Like, do what the book does, and then just call it quits.
Yeah, I also wonder though if it is part of a call because Disney did this before Disney Plus. Like so many things get cancelled that they were like, this is a thing of the past. It'll be on Disney Plus as kind of archival stuff, but we're not keeping up. I mean, HBO, they've launched HBO Max, and that's like streaming is where it's at now, so that's going to be where all the focus is going. And I wonder if, I mean, you've got things like The Last of Us coming up, and like the Snyder Cut obviously was about the Zack Snyder's Justice League was a big push for HBO Max, and I wonder if it's just not in their interest as a streaming service to keep mediocre. Not that the show is mediocre. I like the show, but I mean in terms of ratings.
If the ratings were down, it's like any other TV show. Like, why would you keep it on if the ratings are bad?
Yeah, totally.
That's unnecessary. Like, basically, that's just it's spending a budget that you're not making back with viewers. Speaking of TV adaptations that go beyond the book, Dexter is getting revived on Showtime for a special 9th season. Thank God, because that 8th season ended horribly.
Yep.
And it's been announced that they are bringing back John Lithgow as the Trinity Killer, which must be, they haven't said to what capacity, but it pretty much has to be either in flashbacks or as like a mental projection in Dexter's mind, because Trinity's dead. Like dead, like super dead.
It's been a long time since I watched that show, but I remember him being the best part of it, and that season being probably the best season. So
yes, and then after that, the whole show, like after season 4, pretty much the whole show, they got new showrunners. and the whole show went to shit. Luckily, the showrunners doing this 9th season or this special revival are the showrunners from the first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting good things. I look forward to that. Also, in the vein of TV shows, the Last of Us TV show started filming, starring the Mandalorian himself.
Did you guys see the set photo of them all sitting smiling in the car?
Yeah, it looked like that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when they're in the desert.
It looked like they were about to go spray gasoline at each other to the tune of Jitterbug.
I don't know if any of you guys have played the opening sequence to the first game, but that is not a pleasant scene.
Sequence. Yeah,
that must have been a traumatic day of filming. that photograph was taken before they rolled the cameras.
Yeah,
that is
that's a dark scene.
That's the one part of the game I've actually played on PS Now for when I had a free trial of it. So yeah, that's pretty messed up.
I listened to Troy Baker talk about it in a podcast before. Don't quote me on this, but I think he said they recorded that scene last. That was like the last thing they'd done. So like,
I think I've heard that too. Yeah,
have all that visceral emotion behind them.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it.
Out at the end.
Yeah, and I think Troy Baker as well was saying how like that was the one scene that I think he struggled with. Like they did like 20 odd takes because they just couldn't get. I don't know. I mean, what they ended up with is some of the best acting I've ever seen in a video game. Some of the best acting I've ever seen. But yeah, pretty horrible to try and recreate it, I would imagine. But I'm looking forward to the show.
I heard he got his first copy of the game like before the initial release, and he just couldn't touch it for a while.
Yeah,
he was still traumatized by it
because he just knew how like dark this shit was gonna go.
Yeah, super proud of it, but like, yeah, it was a dark time in his life.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah.
I like some good, really dark television shows, so feed me all the trauma. I want it.
Just don't let Neil Druckmann do anything to it because he's toxic. Review for Last of Us 2 on the website if you want to hear me elaborating more on that too.
Yeah, that's a game that came out last year or the year before. I don't know.
Last year, yeah.
Whatever. Speaking of video games, some video game remakes were announced.
I wrote a piece on the Soul Reaver remake, which could or couldn't be happening. Square Enix, again, you can check the E3 recaps.
Here, Disassembled. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You heard it here first.
You can check in the description for the recap on the Square Enix conference, but it was probably the worst conference at E3. They announced the Guardians game, but everything else was garbage. However, this
How do
could
you feel about Chaos?
I don't care. So yeah, this could be a nice up their sleeve. This looks cool. It was a great game in PS1. Someone was saying how, I don't know if you guys have played it, but you went between realms, right? So similar to the new Ratchet and Clank game that just came out. People are saying, There you go. They've already kind of proven that you can do an updated version of that in PS5. So
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be dope. And also, that's a Legacy Arcane in general is a good series. So I hope they bring it back. Pretty cool. And there's apparently rumors of Dead Space coming back. Which
yes, originally it was being rumored as a revival, and now it is being rumored as a full-on remake of the first Dead Space.
Yeah, it is not a sequel. Yeah, it's a ground-up remake in the style of Resident Evil 2, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say what kind of obviously it's a rumor. I wonder what kind of mechanics they would go about. I'd imagine that'd be the main thing they would change about it. So it looks like they're doing Resident Evil, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's also easy to forget. I mean, so, like these games like Soul Reaver that we're talking about, and obviously Metal Gear Solid Rumor remake has been talked about for a while, and what's the other big one that came out? Resident Evil. Those games are like late 90s.
Yeah,
totally different time. Dead Space is only 10 years old. PS3 area.
I have recently played the first Dead Space, and aside from the visuals, definitely looking like they're from about 2008. Like it.
Yeah.
It hasn't aged that poorly. That's kind of right up there with the idea of like the Last of Us remake is.
Why?
Why? That game still looks very modern.
Genuinely, why? Is because apparently Naughty Dog didn't have anything else to work on. That was genuinely the reason that they gave. They were going to do a remake of Jack and Daxter, I think, or was it Uncharted? One or the other, and they didn't have some of the
first
assets.
Uncharted could definitely do with a remake to kind of put it more in line with Uncharted 2 and 3 and 4, but
I also think though it's because of the show coming out. Like, surely they're trying to ride the
now
type of
I
that.
think Dead Space, you mechanically there's not that much to update. I think you definitely could update the visuals, and with modern technology, Dead Space could look real creepy.
Yeah, because the aesthetic of that game, I mean, the ship, I can't remember the name, is it? It's not Nostromo, that's Alien, but it's got a similar name. But
ship where the bad things happen.
Really cool aesthetic. The monsters have got a cool aesthetic. Isaac's suit is like kind of cool and iconic and memorable.
Yeah.
So
you
that with
definitely...
just sharper graphics would look great.
Yeah, I mean, you literally could just remat. You could just put a coat of paint over it, like the Halo Anniversary Edition, and it would be like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah, some better lighting and stuff. Yeah,
like it still plays perfectly fine. I guess you could bring some of the mechanics more in line with Dead Space 2, but I feel like that kind of like Dead Space 2 versus Dead Space is kind of like Aliens versus Alien. Like Dead Space 2 is much more of an action game.
Yeah. Dead Space 2 was a tipping point towards what do you call them, button press sequences and
and to be fair, I think Dead Space 2 was almost like a near perfect balance.
Quick time events, that's
it. But I mean, you don't have to do that much to Dead Space for it. I mean, I guess we'll see. Well, it's a rumor right now. We'll see what happens.
It might not even be Dead Space. There's rumors that it could be Burnout or it could be Mirror's Edge, which I hope it's not.
I would love a new Burnout.
But it's basically EA are bringing back an old classic, so a lot of people are saying it's Dead Space, but it could be something else.
Excuse me. I would love a new Burnout.
Yeah, I'd be totally happy with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me like a really like arcadey like new Burnout, not like Paradise, like a really like you pick a track, you do a thing.
Burnout 3, man. Takedown was
exactly. Just remake Burnout 3. That's fine. That's all I want. That's really all there is for interesting news this week. Let's move into
Loki.
Which I think there's a ranging just a range of opinions on that.
It was better than last week. I'll start off by saying that.
Definitely. Last week was necessary for kind of what was set up in this week's episode, but ultimately without this week's episode, it's kind of a big nothing burger.
I also I don't know how I feel about the whole zapping people thing, because you got this idea that was like this permanent thing that you didn't want to get hit with a stick, but because Owen Wilson got it and then Loki got it and woke up in the post credits, it kind of took away the danger of that. I thought a wee bit. I was like,
I've kind of felt from the very beginning. I mean, I've gone into this like every turn. I've kind of just assumed that things in the TVA aren't as they seem, including their technology and what they're doing. This episode definitely drove that home.
But it was very obvious that the Timekeepers were just going to be like the Wizard of Oz, like some big
they were literally androids. And then you've got
they use the word prune a lot whenever they do the whole zapping thing. Like, I've never heard that term before, so I looked it up, and what it essentially translates to is like if you're like, say we're typing up reviews or just typing up anything, and there's like, say like a word count that we've exceeded. You would take out certain stuff and replace it.
Well, it's like pruning a garden.
It's a gardening term. But it can be used for like as you're saying, like editing an essay or editing anything really is like pruning.
It's also a dry fruit.
It's not a death. So it's not like a death, but it's like a death of some part of you.
They drinking that prune juice at the TVA. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying. You've got the two Lokis maybe falling in love, but maybe not. It's very... So, obviously, that feels weird, and it's very easy to...
The thing is, I just don't care. Like, I don't... It's they're doing this kind of will they won't they thing, and people online are saying it's weird, and some people are saying, oh, no, it's cute, or whatever. I don't care.
I don't think it's a will they won't they
have an opinion either way.
I'd say that the whole idea of it is making... Sylvie just kind of like another kind of love interest, It's like
the way
she could be more than that.
the way that the showrunners kind of described it, because I read some of the stuff that they said about it after the episode, is this is as much as like Sylvie is an element, this is a story about the Loki that we're following. And the idea there, from what I've gathered, is that this is less about Loki falling in love with Sylvie or anything like that, as much as it is Loki learning to, in a sense, love himself via meeting another version of himself. Like Loki, they're kind of driving home the fact that Loki doesn't really like himself. Like Loki is a deeply troubled individual. And so it's him learning to like himself and live with himself via a literal externalized version of himself, like learning to like aspects of himself. And when you look at it through that lens, it makes a little bit more sense.
It's a bit more poetic in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. And they, I don't think it's a like sexual romantic love, which it's easy to take in that direction. Like that's the obvious jump. It's definitely some sort of affection, but I don't necessarily, I don't think it's the kind of like shipping, like, oh, they're going to get together that everyone thinks it is. I think it's almost more of a familial love sort of thing.
I think they will.
But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And then obviously we've got, Loki kind of, some people in the TVA, two particular members of the TVA, Mobius and whatever the hunter, I forget her number, 15, C15 or whatever.
She was so. Oh no, not the one that's the love interest from Mobius, because she was so obviously a villain. I feel like a mile away.
Oh yeah, Renslayer,
Ravonna or something. Yeah,
Renslayer. Yeah, she's. I wonder what her shit is, because she also seems somewhat traumatized by finding out that the Time Lords were actually androids. So I don't think she's in on it. I think as with all of these things, I think there is a bigger bad that's going to pop up in probably this episode and the next. Whether it's Kang the Conqueror, I don't know. I don't think so. I still.
Can you guys explain to me what the ending was?
What, with Richard E. Grant?
Yeah. So what was happening there?
So we've got some dissension within the TVA via Mobius and that hunter. Mobius kind of starts, at first he thinks it's bullshit, and then he starts to put the pieces together, and finally, when he's kind of outed for putting the pieces together, Renslayer prunes him, which I don't think we've seen the last of Owen Wilson.
No.
So they take the Lokis. They take the Lokis to the Time Masters to kind of account for what they've done. And a fight breaks out. We find out the Time Masters are, in fact, big, dumb robots, which we could have guessed. And then after the fighting is done and it looks like Loki and Sylvie have kind of won the day, Renslayer pops up and hits Loki with that stun baton, and Loki disappears. And you're like, oh my God, that killed Loki. No, they didn't. So then we get our post-credit scene, or our mid-credit scene, where Loki wakes up in what appears to be a time-ravaged New York. You see a dilapidated Stark Tower in the background. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, on the right. Yeah.
Yep. And I had to look at it a couple times. I was like, is that Avengers Tower? It is.
So I was like, oh, yeah.
And we have, for the first time, the thing that I think we've been kind of waiting for throughout this whole series is some genuine different versions of Loki. We've got Kid Loki. We've got classic Jack Kirby, silly ass looking Richard Grant comics Loki, which I really hope he gets more than a couple minutes screen time, because he looks so stupid, and I'm way into it.
And then the crocodile.
Yeah, crocodile Loki. And then we get what the credits list as boastful Loki, which is like the black Loki that looks like he's Thored up.
Yeah, he's holding a hammer, right?
Yeah, but it's not Mjolnir. It's a different hammer. So there is precedent for that. There was in one of the stories, I don't remember. It was a more recent, I think it was Infinity Wars. There was a Loki that was basically Thor from another dimension that thought that mainline Loki was a loser. So maybe there's a version of that we're seeing. But the biggest thing is this leads to the idea that the pruning sticks don't kill people. They send them somewhere. Now, the question that I think we have to answer is, does everyone get sent to the same place, or do different variants of the same person all get sent to one place, but different people are in like, so like all the Lokis go to one place, all of the Mobiuses go to another place.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to be.
So not even with just the characters, but also the small kind of, I'm going to say like the pruning grenade that they put down after every kind of
the reset grenade.
Yeah.
The reset grenade. That's the same stuff. So
yeah, that probably sends
stuff that gets reset.
Yeah. So it's probably, I mean, is it like a pocket dimension, or do they send them to like the end of time? Is it like, here's a timeline that's completely fucked up and no one cares about it and it's disconnected from everything else? So, I mean, that's really the
Simpsons, isn't it?
That's well, Simpsons did it always, forever. They just send them to the Simpsons adaptation.
We're getting it in the Simpsons short. That's where they all go.
I mean, the kind of interesting thing is we're led to believe there's this singular sacred timeline. Where does this sit on that? Because this doesn't seem like it's part of that timeline, which means there actually are other timelines that they're just not acknowledging. Moreover, do the agents of the TVA know that that's what's happening when they prune someone? Because I don't think they do. I don't think they know shit about shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, what that comes down to is,
I found it quite interesting in that last battle scene. It was before Loki gets pruned himself. None of the hunters were like using the actual pruning mechanism during the entire fight scene.
They have a sharp side on the back that is for killing. So maybe they do know it's not fatal.
Yeah.
I mean, I am interested to see where episode 5 goes. If nothing else, I want to see these new Lokis now that we finally have like actual, like really other versions of Loki to work with.
Yeah.
Is it two more episodes we have of this?
Yeah, 2 more.
5 and 6.
Seeing Richard E. Grant in the comic accurate Halloween costume really put me in mind of Jeremy Irons from Watchmen and the Ozymandias comic accurate costume. Really reminded me of that. Yeah.
So silly. Yeah. I feel like Loki more than any of the other shows so far. I feel like Loki would be well served by having more episodes than it's been given. Because there's a lot for them to kind of tie up in episodes 5 and 6, but I will let them do what they're going to do, and we'll see how it plays out.
I wonder if we'll get like a feature-length finale.
That'd be nice.
Kind of tie,
I doubt it, but it'd be nice.
Yeah, I don't see it, but that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see where Loki goes next week. It's definitely finally kind of building to some interesting things, which I'll at least give it credit for that.
It's better than Falcon Winter Soldier, I'll say that.
Yes, and I really hope that we haven't seen the last of Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
wow.
I think he's the best. I think we got one. How? It wasn't a wow, but
he doesn't do a wow apparently.
No, but he did a how.
How? Did do a how.
Yeah, it's close enough. Yeah,
it's close enough. He knew what he was doing.
10 out of 10 episode.
I think Owen Wilson knows. He's self-aware. Yeah. With his weird nose. Nose.
Sophology adverts.
I went and saw Fast 9 twice in one day.
Ian, can I ask why?
I like that movie.
Was that it? Just simple as that?
Mm-hmm. I saw it once normally, and then we went and had dinner, and I was like, what if we went and saw it again, but in IMAX? And so we did.
Good. It's like the Black Book spell Bailey. It's like, I'm going to watch it again.
Yeah, it was really good in IMAX. That movie is loud and stupid, and I get a big dumb. They go to space. They do it. They go to space,
and then to listen. Right, I'm just going to go full spoilers because who cares? So when they go to space, right, the next day, or what's assumed to be the next day, they're back in Dom's backyard having a Corona and a barbecue.
I don't think it's supposed to be the next day because Ludacris is like, I've been eating astronaut food for weeks.
Oh, okay. So maybe they did a better time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I loved how they addressed John Cena and Vin Diesel being brothers. You've got similar features. No, they don't.
No, not even a little bit.
And then Charlie Theron's like, you have a Nordic strain to your chin. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, John Cena has a big old chin, and Vin Diesel doesn't have a chin.
Oh, it's so funny.
Also, like, young actor playing young Vin Diesel looks nothing like Vin Diesel.
No,
He did a good Vin Diesel voice.
he did. He did the voice good. Yeah,
He
did.
played a good Vin Diesel, but he didn't really look like him. Like, I've seen Pitch Black. I know what young Vin Diesel looks like.
And the guy playing the young John Cena was the cousin for Peaky Blinders with his hair dyed dark to make him look more ethnic.
He looks so puny. I had a hard time looking at him and being like, yeah, he's gonna turn into John Cena someday. Like, woof. I guess he really did that. He really like he went at it with those workouts. You know, he ate some horse meat.
I loved seeing John Cena ziplining all the way across Edinburgh from the castle to the cathedral. That was hilarious.
Right. John Cena was all right in this movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed him, man. I
didn't mind him. I think he had a smirky smarm to him that I appreciated.
Yeah, totally. Do you know? By the end, it felt like, you know how when you play GTA 5 with all the mods on. Yeah. And you've got all the cars just spinning around you and stuff. Yep. Yeah, by the end with the magnets, that's what it felt like.
Magnets, how do those work? Like, we go from the magnets just attract laptops and cell phones to now they're blowing whole ass cars out of the way. Like, why weren't they doing that earlier? Is it just they didn't have it turned up as high as they could go?
Maybe, yeah. Let's say that.
Sure, let's explain it that way.
The scene with the guys from Fast and Furious 3 where they're testing the rocket car.
Oh my god.
And then they're like, it didn't blow up, and then it blows up. It was so Looney Tunes. It was like so.
So Sean, right? He's the southern dude.
Yeah.
So he looks ostensibly,
rough. The years have not been kind.
If you follow the Fast and Furious timeline, according to when Han actually died, Tokyo Drift should take place around 2013.
Okay.
Which means that this should only take place about 8 years later. Now, Sean was a high school senior in Tokyo Drift.
What about
He was about 17 or 18, which means at this point he'd have to be about 26. That man does not look a day under 45. I like that they
magnets, so it's fine.
He didn't have a character in Tokyo Drift really, so they just turned him into like wacky southern dude building like moonshine racers in his backyard.
Yeah. Listen, I also think Han's death summarizes the jump in the shark that this series has did overall. In Fast and Furious 3, it was just a car crash. He was just in a crash during a street race. And then you had Jason Statham killing him. And at this point, he's faked his death. He's pretty much the JFK conspiracy. Like,
yeah. So here's the thing about Fast and Furious. I actually love this franchise a lot more after it jumped the shark. I think that was the best thing it could have ever done.
Sure.
The Han stuff is just so hand waved away. Like, They literally just have someone walk by, and as that person's leg passes, he's gone. He's not in the car. Like, they just CGI'd him out of the car. Like, they make no effort to actually explain it aside from "oops, he didn't die," and I'm like, yeah, all right, fine,
sure.
It's Star Wars. It's just what they do. Yeah.
I just screw it, you guys. I'm gonna watch. They're filming 10 and 11 back to back in January, and I'm gonna watch them both. Probably multiple times. I love these movies in ways that like aren't rational or reasonable, but I do.
I'm on board.
They're very like it's not even an ironic thing. I genuinely love this franchise.
What franchise has more films, Star Wars or Fast and Furious?
Spin-offs
as well.
Counting spin-offs, I think Fast and Furious is ahead by 1.
Ooh.
Because we've got 10... Nope, Star Wars is ahead by 1. Because we got 9 mainline Star Wars, 2 spin-offs. We've got 9 Fast and Furious and 1 spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
So Star Wars is ahead by 1.
There's a weird prequel movie with Han in it that's part in the same universe. Don't know if that counts, but
kind of.
It's an odd Justin Lin film. Yeah.
It's like unofficially the same universe. It is, but it's not. It's not officially in the franchise. Han is the same, but a different character at the same time. But people accept that as being like Han's like introduction. I'm looking forward to seeing what the last 2 movies in the franchise do. I think they're gonna. I mean, I think Charlize Theron is around for the long haul as the big bad of the franchise at this point. I think they're gonna. I like Charlize Theron. I don't like the Simple Jack haircut they gave her in this one. I think they're gonna fold in the stuff from Hobbs and Shaw, so I think we're gonna get Ryan Reynolds as a villain.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think
why not at this point.
Here's my theory. we're going to find out that they've all been... So, in the beginning of the movie when Tyrese is like, what if we're immortal?
Yeah.
And Ludacris is like, what if your dumbass needs to sit the fuck down? Take your jacket with you. I think we're going to find out that they've all been infected with the same virus as Idris Elba from Hobbs and Shaw, and they actually are all indestructible, and that explains everything about the last few movies.
I know. I love how they made that a plot point.
Yep.
And they try to make it a heartfelt moment at the end when they crash through the satellite.
They're fine. They're fine. They're fine. Everyone's fine. We come in peace. Like a good callback. Good callback to the beginning of the film.
Great.
But yeah, I waited 1.5 years for this goddamn movie. It was worth every second. Now I eagerly, right. I eagerly anticipate number 10 and number 11. Bring back The Rock.
Just keep going. Like, I don't even think they should stop. Just keep going
forever.
See how far we can take it.
Old man Dom.
Never stop.
All right.
What are you done?
I loved it.
To head off?
Yeah, I'm good to wrap up whenever.
Yeah, I need to be getting going. So I have actual work I get paid for to do in a bit here. So we'll be back next week, just me, Ben, and Massimo, or David, I don't know who yet, to talk about the original trilogy. We'll talk about Loki episode 5. We'll talk about the news. Of course, all the reviews that Dan has mentioned, you can check out on BGCP or bigglasgowcomic.page.com or bgcp.co.uk or whatever the web address is now. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter as BGCP Comic Con. You can find back episodes where we talk about other stuff, where I sound significantly more sleepy than I do this week. This week, high energy.
Yeah, because you got to talk about Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes me feel alive these days. Otherwise, thanks for joining us for another week of this podcast that all 15 of you listen to. Most of you are our family members. And we'll see you.
Not even.
6 of you. Thanks. Hi, Mom. And hi, Dan's mom. We'll see you next week for more of the disassembling of our sanity and psyche.
See you in a month.
Oh, yeah, Dan won't be here. So, bye, Dan. We'll miss you. This is the last time you'll ever see Dan's weird slanty ceiling.
Yeah, nice flat walls.
Last time you see him for a month.
Thank you for listening to Disassembled. You can find more news and reviews on bigglasgowcomicpage.com. And don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as BGCP Comic Con. Make sure you also subscribe on your podcast provider of choice for new episodes every week.